A clause in Lewis Hamilton's contract with Ferrari has just expired, making him free to join any team. Want to know which team has offered him a clean €42 million deal? Stay until the end, this video is for you. Subscribe to stay informed about the latest Formula One news. Lewis Hamilton's sudden fallout with Ferrari and his increasingly likely defection to Red Bull Racing has sent shockwaves through the entire Formula One ecosystem. What initially appeared to be a fairy tale chapter in the career of the seven-time world champion, driving for the iconic Scuderia, has devolved into a full-scale crisis behind closed doors, one laced with anger, mistrust, betrayal, and the slow-burning realization that what was supposed to be his crowning legacy season has turned into an unraveling of epic proportions. The internal dynamics at Maranello have become so corrosive that even neutral team members have begun to take sides, some whispering about the irreparable rift, while others openly express disbelief that things have deteriorated to such an extent. In the paddock, silence often says more than press releases. Observers have noted the increasingly frosty body language between Hamilton and key Ferrari personnel, particularly the engineers and strategists embedded in Leclerc's side of the garage. While Charles Leclerc continues to smile and toe the party line, Hamilton's demeanor has shifted noticeably. Those closest to the situation describe a man not just frustrated, but incensed. It's not merely about bad luck or a string of poor performances, it's about a fundamental breakdown in trust and perceived fairness. Hamilton is said to believe, with conviction, that Ferrari has made a conscious decision to build the team around Leclerc, treating the Briton more like a high-profile accessory than the driving force he was promised he would be. What makes the situation even more volatile is the technological favoritism that Hamilton reportedly uncovered. Internal requests for car telemetry and power unit data revealed a disturbing pattern. The latest power unit calibrations, particularly those affecting torque curves and energy deployment, were implemented on Leclerc's car races ahead of Hamilton's. In sectors where tenths of a second make the difference between pole position and P6, those tiny upgrades matter. Hamilton, a meticulous student of his own data, allegedly called out several engineers in closed-door meetings, challenging their decisions and accusing them of intentionally stunting his performance window. He demanded side-by-side comparisons of throttle application, drag coefficients, and ERS deployment rates, many of which painted a bleak picture that seemingly justified his growing paranoia. Subscribe to stay informed about the latest Formula One news. Sources embedded within Ferrari suggest that the breaking point may have occurred during the post-race debrief in Austria, where Hamilton, usually diplomatic even in frustration, reportedly lashed out at team principal Frederic Vasseur. He accused the leadership of sabotaging his campaign in favor of Leclerc, going as far as claiming that his role was reduced to that of a data collection mule. Vasseur, caught off guard, tried to defuse the tension but failed to provide the hard reassurances Hamilton demanded. It was during that meeting, according to those present, that Hamilton dropped the bombshell. He was already in preliminary talks with a rival team, and that team, unmistakably, was Red Bull Racing. What's perhaps most startling about the rumors is that Red Bull, Ferrari's direct competitor and the reigning constructors' champion, is even entertaining the idea. Christian Horner, who in the past dismissed the notion of Hamilton in a Red Bull seat as highly unlikely, is now believed to be spearheading discreet negotiations. The potential pairing of Hamilton and Max Verstappen, once deemed politically impossible, is now being discussed as a potential superteam alliance that could redefine F1's competitive hierarchy. High-level executives from Red Bull's Austrian and Milton Keynes offices have reportedly held meetings exploring the financial feasibility, political implications, and logistical challenges of bringing Hamilton into the fold as early as next season. The implications are staggering. If the deal materializes, it would be the most high-profile team switch since Ayrton Senna's tumultuous move from McLaren to Williams in the 1990s. Insiders say Hamilton's entourage has grown increasingly receptive to Red Bull's offer, especially after being assured of equal machinery and full autonomy on car development feedback. The idea of a multi-year deal, coupled with a technical veto over certain aspects of chassis and PU evolution, is said to have appealed immensely to Hamilton, who no longer wants to play second fiddle in what he now sees as a Leclerc-first institution. There's also a psychological dimension at play. Hamilton sees this move not only as a chance to win an 8th world title, but as an act of revenge. A bold, calculated response to what he perceives as betrayal by Ferrari, a team he once dreamed of leading to championship glory. Even within the Red Bull camp, opinions are divided. Some fear the explosive chemistry between Verstappen and Hamilton could reignite the toxic rivalry last seen in 2021. Others, however, believe that with the right internal management, the two titans could push each other to new levels, much like Senna and Prost or even Schumacher and Barrichello during their dominant years. Helmut Marko, known for his ruthless clarity, is said to be skeptical but not dismissive. Meanwhile, Verstappen's silence on the matter has only fueled speculation. The Dutchman, usually forthright, has neither welcomed nor condemned the possibility, though one source close to him noted, "Max likes a challenge, but he also wants a team built around him." Subscribe to stay informed about the latest Formula One news. As this story continues to unravel, Hamilton's behavior has become increasingly erratic, at least by his own disciplined standards. He's skipped several marketing events, declined to participate in joint interviews with Leclerc, and has started arriving late to strategic briefings. In a sport where optics and harmony matter as much as pace, the signs are unmistakable. This isn't just a rocky phase, it's a full-scale disintegration of a relationship once hailed as historic. Ferrari, meanwhile, maintains a facade of unity, insisting that both drivers are given equal machinery and strategic freedom. But few in the paddock believe that anymore. The whispers are too loud, the discrepancies too blatant, and Hamilton's fury too visible to ignore. The idea of Lewis Hamilton donning a Red Bull racing suit was once the stuff of fantasy. Today, it feels like an inevitability. The fans are divided, the pundits are stunned, and the rest of the grid is quietly preparing for a seismic shift in the balance of power. If Hamilton does make the leap, it will send a message far beyond the racetrack. A message that even legends have a breaking point. A message that ambition, pride, and legacy still rule the fastest sport on Earth. And above all, a warning to Ferrari, that in choosing sides, they may have just lost the one man who could have brought them back to the top. The atmosphere in the Formula One paddock has reached a boiling point, and the situation surrounding Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari is spiraling into uncharted territory. What once seemed like a historic partnership built on hope, ambition, and the dream of an eighth world title has now disintegrated into a cold, calculated chess game. Behind the scenes, it is no longer about lap times or tire degradation. It's about power, clauses, legal maneuvers, and sudden opportunities that could redefine the very fabric of the sport. Lewis Hamilton's frustrations, which began as quiet murmurs during early debriefs, have now erupted into an undeniable storm of tension. Ferrari's inability to deliver a car capable of matching Red Bull, McLaren, or even Mercedes has left Hamilton stranded in the midfield, battling not for victories but for mere points. The promise of parity with teammate Charles Leclerc has turned into a mirage, and the seven-time world champion has been left to navigate a nightmare scenario, a car that lacks stability under braking, suffers from inconsistent rear-end grip, and fails to respond to the precision inputs that made Hamilton legendary. But the real earthquake came not on the track, but within the clauses buried in the fine print of Hamilton's contract. A clause so obscure that even some insiders at Maranello weren't aware of its existence until recently. This particular escape mechanism, known internally as the Performance Dissatisfaction Clause, states that if Hamilton fails to reach Q3 in 5 consecutive races, a marker of failing to qualify among the top 10, and simultaneously fails to score championship points in 2 back-to-back Grand Prix, his contract essentially dissolves its exclusivity. In simpler terms, it gives him complete freedom to explore offers from rival teams without the need for Ferrari's consent or financial penalties. And as shocking as it may sound, both of these rare contractual triggers have now been activated. The double DNF in Hungary, combined with the soul-crushing invisibility of his performance at Silverstone, has officially opened the floodgates. Hamilton is now, technically and legally, a free agent mid-season. What followed was not hesitation, but acceleration. Red Bull Racing, ever vigilant and always one step ahead of the competitive curve, launched into action the moment the news leaked. Inside the walls of the Milton Keynes facility, it wasn't just whispers, it was a full-blown strategy meeting. Helmut Marko, the architect of Red Bull's ruthlessly efficient driver development program, and Christian Horner, the maestro of political maneuvering and long-term vision, saw what others were too stunned to process: the potential creation of the most explosive driver pairing in modern F1 history. Within days, some say even hours, a formal offer was drafted. Not a casual inquiry, but a power play. Red Bull proposed a 1-year contract for Hamilton, reportedly valued at $42 million, with options to extend based on performance metrics. But the financial number is just the tip of the iceberg. The deal is laced with layers of commercial and personal sweeteners designed to appeal to Hamilton's brand, legacy, and future ambitions. Included in the offer are exclusive rights for a docuseries collaboration with Netflix, intended to document the unprecedented union of Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton under the same garage. The proposal also grants Hamilton full parity with Verstappen, access to identical data streams, telemetry, engineering feedback, and strategic input. In an uncharacteristic move, Red Bull has agreed to eliminate any form of team hierarchy, a bold gesture rarely offered by a team that has traditionally favored a clear number one. More than that, the deal provides Hamilton with the autonomy to pursue non-racing ventures during the season. Whether it's fashion, music, activism, or business endeavors, Red Bull has pledged to support his off-track ambitions without restriction. Personal sponsors would be allowed to coexist with Red Bull's own branding, a rare and difficult concession. Rumors even suggest Hamilton would be granted creative control over marketing campaigns that involve his image, a privilege no other Red Bull driver has ever enjoyed. Internally, Verstappen is said to be skeptical but not resistant. While tensions between the two have defined an era of F1, there's also a deep, if grudging, respect. Sources close to Max say he's aware that no other driver has pushed him to his limits quite like Hamilton. And with the sport rapidly evolving and new threats like Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri emerging, Verstappen himself may see strategic value in having a teammate who forces him to dig deeper rather than coast. The implications of this potential alliance are seismic. Formula One's political landscape would be thrown into chaos. Ferrari would face a public relations disaster, having lured Hamilton away from Mercedes only to lose him to their fiercest rivals within a year. Mercedes would be caught in the middle, watching their former star reunite with their arch-nemesis. And fans? The internet would melt down. Hamilton-Verstappen under one roof would be the ultimate test of ego, skill, engineering, and psychological warfare. What comes next is unclear. Ferrari may attempt to salvage the relationship with counteroffers, or perhaps even legal disputes over interpretation of the clause. Red Bull may hold off announcing the deal until the timing is politically and strategically optimal. And Hamilton? He may already be mentally gone, focused not on red overalls, but on blue and matte black liveries, plotting a final act in his storied career that no one could have predicted. But make no mistake, what has begun is not just a rumor or a negotiation. It's a potential revolution in the paddock. One that could rewrite rivalries, reset power dynamics, and send shockwaves through every team meeting, pit lane conversation, and strategy room. Hamilton is back on the market. And Red Bull is ready to break the sport once again. Hamilton's camp is believed to have entered a critical and highly sensitive phase of negotiations with Red Bull, intensifying a saga that is rapidly becoming the most explosive behind-the-scenes storyline of the current Formula One season. With the stakes impossibly high and reputations on the line, insiders are now revealing that multiple covert meetings have already taken place, 3 to be precise, each orchestrated with military-level secrecy. Mark Hines, who has been Hamilton's trusted advisor and personal confidant for years, is leading the charge. Hines, along with a team of elite legal strategists, is understood to have already met twice with senior Red Bull executives in the ultra-discreet environment of Monte Carlo, away from the paddock's prying eyes. The third meeting, held under tight security during the Red Bull Ring weekend in Austria, was reportedly the most pivotal yet. While Hamilton didn't attend any of these meetings in person, sources indicate that he was actively involved through highly encrypted video conferencing software, ensuring no traceable communication could leak. Those close to the discussion say Hamilton has been meticulous, asking pointed questions about Red Bull's engineering evolution, performance projections, and even the psychological dynamics within the Verstappen-led team. He's not just looking at this as a move to another competitive car, he sees this as the final chapter in his legendary career, a chapter that must deliver the elusive 8th title. He believes the Red Bull RB Series, especially with the 2026 regulations around the corner, offers the best chance for outright dominance, both mechanically and strategically. For Hamilton, the allure of ending his career with the most dominant package on the grid is more than tempting, it's intoxicating. Back in Maranello, the ripple effect of these negotiations has grown into a seismic internal crisis. Frédéric Vasseur, Ferrari's team principal, was reportedly left reeling after catching wind of the talks, which had been carefully hidden even from some high-ranking Ferrari insiders. According to sources embedded deep within the Ferrari structure, Vasseur didn't wait for PR protocols or official clarification, he acted immediately. Right after the conclusion of the emotionally charged British Grand Prix, Vasseur summoned Hamilton to a private room inside the team's hospitality suite. What was supposed to be a brief check-in turned into a verbal firefight that insiders now describe as one of the most hostile confrontations Ferrari has experienced in the modern era. The conversation, shielded from media access but overheard by several staff members outside the closed doors, escalated into raised voices and raw accusations. Vasseur is believed to have accused Hamilton of breaching trust, of playing both sides, and of airing internal grievances in ways that fueled negative press around the team. He reportedly shouted about team values, loyalty, and the importance of maintaining unity during an already turbulent season. Hamilton, never one to back down from confrontation, responded with fire of his own. He is said to have unleashed a wave of frustration that had been building for months, alleging that the team had systematically prioritized Leclerc in both strategy calls and car development. One quote from the exchange has since made its way through the paddock grapevine. Hamilton allegedly told Vasseur, "You've destroyed my title fight to protect your golden boy. You've made your choice, now I'm making mine." That one sentence reportedly silenced the room. The confrontation dragged on for nearly an hour, with no resolution reached, no apologies offered, and perhaps most telling, no handshake exchanged when it ended. Witnesses describe Hamilton exiting first, walking past Ferrari staff with a stone-faced expression, followed minutes later by a visibly agitated Vasseur, who reportedly slammed the door as he left. Since that moment, the atmosphere within Ferrari has shifted palpably. Engineers, strategists, and even junior staff are said to be walking on eggshells, unsure of how to operate amid such internal tension. Team meetings have grown shorter and colder. Communication between the Hamilton and Leclerc camps within the garage has reportedly been reduced to bare-bones necessity. Meanwhile, back at Red Bull, there is a growing sense that the stars may be aligning for what would be the most dramatic transfer in modern F1 history. Christian Horner, who has navigated countless controversies and rivalries in his time as team boss, is said to be cautiously enthusiastic about the idea. Sources close to Horner suggest that he sees Hamilton's potential arrival not only as a performance asset but also as a marketing coup, a PR masterstroke that could elevate Red Bull's brand to unprecedented heights. The discussions now reportedly center on logistics, driver pairing dynamics with Verstappen, and the financial structuring of what would certainly be a record-shattering contract. There are even whispers that Red Bull is considering a 1+1 year deal with multiple performance-related exit clauses, designed to give both sides flexibility. Within Hamilton's inner circle, reactions are reportedly mixed. Some see this as a risk worth taking, a final gamble for greatness. Others caution that joining Verstappen in the same team could reignite the kind of intra-team chaos not seen since the Hamilton-Rosberg years at Mercedes. Still, the momentum appears real, and every new meeting, every encrypted call, every leak, intentional or not, pushes the situation closer to a definitive crossroads. For now, the paddock is bracing for what could become an earth-shattering announcement. And if Hamilton does indeed make the leap, the sport may never look the same again. Vasseur had barely stepped out of the chaotic paddock in Budapest before boarding a last-minute helicopter bound for Ferrari headquarters in Maranello. The tension inside that aircraft could have sliced through carbon fiber. The situation had escalated so dramatically in just 72 hours that silence was no longer an option. Upon arrival, he was immediately ushered into an emergency meeting. No time for pleasantries, no time for structured agendas. John Elkann, usually composed and diplomatic, was visibly agitated. Benedetto Vigna looked more like a man facing an existential dilemma than a CEO of one of the most iconic brands in automotive history. This wasn't just about a driver contract. This was about identity, legacy, the very DNA of Scuderia Ferrari. Inside that room, behind soundproof glass and layers of corporate hierarchy, the conversation flowed like a pressure valve about to explode. The question on the table was no longer whether Hamilton was an asset, but whether the price of keeping him, emotionally and operationally, was worth the fracture it had caused within the team's structure. Vasseur presented data, performance charts, telemetry inconsistencies, psychological profiles, anything to rationalize the increasingly irrational dynamic between Lewis and the prancing horse. But what hit hardest wasn't the numbers. It was the acknowledgement, finally verbalized, that Leclerc had become more than just a young talent. He had become Ferrari's gravitational center. The team no longer orbited Hamilton's aura. The future was beginning to reshape itself, and it no longer included 7 titles. It now leaned toward one goal, building something unbreakable around a man still hungry for his first. And so, the tide began to turn. The majority consensus, once split by boardroom politics and marketing considerations, began to crystallize around the notion that Hamilton's exit might actually be a release valve. A necessary amputation before rot spread further. There was no animosity, no malice. just strategic detachment. The mood shifted from desperation to acceptance. The message, carefully worded but decisive, was simple: if Lewis wants to leave, let him. Let him go with honor. Let him walk into the next chapter, and let Ferrari turn the page. Meanwhile, the Formula One paddock, always thirsty for blood, change and drama, has erupted into a fever pitch of speculation that borders on obsession. Whispers travel faster than DRS. In the hospitality units and engineering trailers of Red Bull Racing, quiet but intense operations are underway. Engineers have reportedly pulled hours of Hamilton's telemetry from previous seasons, focusing on how he adapts to high rake setups, how he handles dynamic yaw sensitivity, and whether his braking style could gel with the RB21's notoriously twitchy rear. Sim data from Hamilton's McLaren days is even being reanalyzed, not just out of nostalgia, but to trace behavioral patterns under unfamiliar machinery. Every inch of his driving DNA is being dissected. And the conclusion? He's still got it. Maybe not with Ferrari, but perhaps with something faster, meaner, redder in a different shade. And Verstappen? When asked about the potential arrival of the 7-time world champion to the very team he dominates, he didn't blink. He didn't gloat. He didn't panic. With that icy confidence only he can weaponize, he gave a sly smile and muttered, "Let's see what happens. I like competition." But behind those words, beneath the bravado, there's unease. Verstappen has built an empire within Red Bull. The arrival of Hamilton would shake that empire, if only at the edges. Max isn't scared, but he's watching closely. Then there's Sergio Perez. The man who started this season with dreams of redemption now finds himself at the epicenter of silence. No tweets. No statements. No smiles in the garage. Just a wall of quiet that speaks louder than any press release. Insiders suggest that conversations are underway behind closed doors, not just about a potential exit, but about relocation. Carb. Possibly. Aston Martin? A stretch, but not off the table. Even whispers of an IndyCar test have emerged. One thing is clear: Perez knows the machine is shifting gears, and he's not the one holding the steering wheel anymore. As for Hamilton himself, his camp has gone completely dark. No quotes. No leaks. No denials. Just a void filled with speculation and carefully curated Instagram posts. But friends close to him, real friends, the ones who've watched him through heartbreaks, collapses, and championships, say this time feels different. For Lewis, this isn't just about the next race. It's not even about the next title. It's about redemption, control, legacy. After spending over a year feeling like a pawn in a chess game he once dominated, he's found renewed fire. Ferrari offered prestige. But Red Bull? Red Bull offers something more dangerous: purpose. He's tired of being a symbol. Tired of being the name teams used to sell shirts but not build strategies. Tired of the quiet glances inside his own garage when strategy calls go wrong and Leclerc gets the benefit of the doubt. For the first time in years, Hamilton isn't chasing numbers. He's chasing narrative. The chance to silence everyone who thought his age was a liability. The chance to show that even when abandoned, underestimated, and boxed in, he can still rewrite history. Not in red, but perhaps in the blazing fire of a team that once mocked him but now desperately needs his genius to hold off a new wave of challengers. What comes next could change the landscape of Formula One for years. A Hamilton-Verstappen alliance would be as volatile as it would be iconic. It would turn the paddock into a pressure cooker of egos, expectations, and fireworks waiting to ignite. And whether it ends in glory or implosion, one thing is certain: the world will be watching. Every second, every turn, every radio message. Because this isn't just a transfer. It's a declaration. The tension in the Formula One paddock is reaching levels rarely seen in recent years. Insiders are whispering, team members are walking on eggshells, and the global motorsport audience is holding its breath as the sport teeters on the verge of what many are calling an unprecedented turning point. The coming days aren't just important, they may very well be historic. Behind closed doors, intense negotiations are believed to be underway, with key figures locked in meetings that could reshape the very foundations of the championship. These aren't just ordinary talks. They're high-stakes chess moves that involve reputations, legacy, millions of dollars in sponsorship, and the strategic direction of some of the most powerful organizations in racing. Sources close to both camps indicate that the long-anticipated switch could be made official sooner than anyone expected. While some suggest that the formal announcement might explode into the headlines as early as the upcoming Grand Prix weekend, where the global spotlight will be firmly fixed on the track and every subtle interaction will be dissected by analysts, journalists, and fans alike, others with knowledge of the inner workings suggest a more calculated approach. According to them, the decision-makers might opt to postpone the bombshell until the summer break, a perfect window to manage reactions, control narratives, and implement early integration strategies behind the scenes without the relentless pressure of back-to-back races and public scrutiny. But regardless of the exact timing, there's a rising consensus among experts and insiders that the moment of truth is fast approaching. It's no longer a matter of if, but when. And when it happens, it will not be a mere team switch or a routine reshuffling of contracts. It will be a seismic shock that could permanently alter the trajectory of multiple careers, shatter existing hierarchies, and light the spark of a new rivalry that promises to be as explosive as any the sport has ever seen. It will be the kind of shift that forces engineers to rethink strategies, team principals to redefine priorities, and drivers to reassess alliances. There's a sense that the move in question carries symbolic weight far beyond a simple transfer. It speaks to ambition, to legacy building, to a hunger for dominance that transcends comfort zones. For the team potentially gaining a new star, this would be a declaration of intent, a bold push to reclaim or reinforce its status at the summit of motorsport. For the driver rumored to be at the center of this dramatic pivot, it would represent both a monumental risk and a tantalizing opportunity, one that could either cement an already legendary status or unravel under the suffocating pressure of expectation. The psychological warfare has already begun. Watchful eyes have noted strange silences in interviews, uncharacteristic pauses during press conferences, subtle nods exchanged between figures normally distant. The paddock, once a place of predictable rhythms and controlled routines, now feels electric with speculation. Even pit crews, mechanics, and media officers are being more careful than usual, as if aware that even an offhand comment or an innocent photo could blow the lid off a meticulously timed reveal. And in the heart of this storm sits a possible future rivalry that has fans salivating and pundits scrambling to anticipate every implication. This isn't just about competition, it's about narrative, about drama, about two titanic figures potentially clashing not just on the track, but in the garage, in the simulator room, in the hearts of millions who will pick sides and debate endlessly. If the switch goes through, the championship will no longer be just about performance. It will become a psychological battlefield where every gesture, every overtake, every mistake will be magnified 1,000 times. The sport will find itself caught in a swirl of adrenaline, controversy, and emotional investment that could break viewership records and define an entire era. The question now is not whether Formula One is ready for this transformation. It's whether it can contain the explosion of intensity that's about to erupt. Fans, journalists, insiders, and rivals alike are poised for what could be the most captivating storyline in modern racing history. Every hour brings new speculation, fresh rumors, secret meetings. And yet, for all the noise, only a handful of people truly know what's coming. The rest of us? We wait, we watch, and we wonder, because something big is coming, and it's going to change everything.